Hey, so in this video, I'm going to show you how I might use a comic style action to create a background for e-learning, and also show you guys how I might bring a character into this background. And this is going to all be done on the fly. I haven't done this before. I just want to kind of show you my thinking process behind how I create images and show you different ways of editing them. So what I'm going to do is, from my original tutorial on how to create your own actions, I'm still going to use this photo that's a background. And what I'm going to do is I have this vintage comic action that I downloaded from on the web. And what I can do is apply this to create a sort of comic style looking background. The one thing I'm going to note is using these actions, stuff can get kind of tacky looking. You can overdo it with the comic style actions and really any kind of actions that are in Photoshop. You might get too much text and too much busyness going on. So one of the things that I like to try to achieve is to make things a little more simplistic and not as standout-ish. So I'm probably going to want to edit this afterwards. So let's go ahead. If you downloaded an action, it should be an ATN file. And then when you double click to open that ATN file, what you'll do is under Window in Photoshop, and then under Actions, what you'll see is it should show up automatically here in the Actions panel. So I'm going to go ahead and apply these actions to this image. So I'll click the play button with the starting action selected. And what it's going to do, it's going to go down and do all of the filters for it, because I have it set to toggle to automatically do all of these without asking me if I want to make any changes or edits. But you can certainly toggle it so that you can see every single action popping up, and what you would do is toggle the dialogue on and off. So if you wanted to do that, you could do it that way too. But for this, we're not going to do that. So as you can see, it's applied the entire vintage comic action, and I honestly don't like how this looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this. And you can see in your layers here, we've got a bunch of different things going on. And one of the things that I don't like about this, you can tell that color there, that orange, I don't like that. So I'm going to get rid of that layer. And now you see that there's this sort of other color fill that is a blue color, and I don't really like that either, so I'm going to get rid of it. And now you can see it looks a little more realistic. So it's a little bit better, but it is a little bit too grainy for my taste. I would like it to look differently. So I'm going to go down here, and because this image was so large and we're using a lot of different things going on, it might take a minute, but I want to change the color halftone. So if you see, if I turn that off, the background's kind of like a sketch sort of filter, but I want to have those dots there still just to make it more look comic style, but I don't like how grainy it looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to change their max radius for the pixels, and I'm thinking, I think I want to make it more, so let's try like 8, and I think it was 4. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so that's a little bit drastic. What I might do to change something like this is change the opacity, because it's very, very drastic. And see, if I change the opacity of that, it gets a little bit more subtle looking, and it doesn't look so crazy like with millions of dots that are super, super duper dark. So I might change the fill opacity and the overall opacity of this to make it like look a little bit different. So it still has that comic style, but it's a little bit more subtle. The second thing I might want to do on this is do something similar, but with a character, because we want to have a character in this that also fits the comic style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Storyline, and I'm going to go and insert a character. So let's do a photographic character. And you don't have to use the Storyline ones. You can also use any that you find online. But I'll show you how to do this with the Storyline characters. And I'll use Atsumi. Sorry if I said her name wrong. We'll grab her. And there's a really easy way to change what she looks like in Photoshop by saving her as an image. So let's go ahead and find one where maybe look like this. She's like greeting you in the office. And let's make her just a lot bigger. So we'll hold down Shift and drag that corner. And so she's not on the stage, but she looks a lot bigger. So in order to save her as a character, just an image by herself with a transparent background, all you have to do is right click on her and then go to save as picture. And we can save her as a picture. So we'll just save her to the desktop there. And this is pretty nifty. We can bring her into Photoshop. So we've got this image here and we want to do File, New. So we'll create a new picture for her. Let's just make it like 2000, oh, oops, 2000 by 2000. And then we can drag her over. Whoa, way too many. Or actually we can just use her. We don't need to put her on a separate new project. Grab her. All right, so we want to do kind of a similar thing as our background image here and make her look more comic style. So what I want to do for this is I'll just go through the same thing with the vintage comic and automatically let it go. And we're going to tweak her to look differently too, because she wouldn't really look that great like that in there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to remove these colors. And then I want to adjust the little hash picture or hash texture on her too. So I'm going to go to the color halftone again and let's try that. So the last one we did was 8 and maybe we want a little bit of contrast in her in the background. So I'll try 7 for the max radius. And you can see it's a little bit different and we'll adjust some of these opacities here. So we might make that a little bit different. You just kind of have to play along with it. So she looks rather comic style now. And what I would do to test out what she looks like in, oops, and we could just probably delete some of these so we can get rid of color fill. What I would want to do is drag her onto the scene so we can see what she looks like. So let's go ahead and do that and see how she looks over here. So there we go. It looks a lot better like this. I would still probably play around with her texture, maybe make the dots a little bit bigger on her to contrast with the background, but it looks a little bit more simple and less grainy like the other version did. So what you can do is go ahead and play around with your own actions, play around with the different areas over here in the layers, the different filters and whatnot. And I would say, definitely, just test things out and play around to get things looking how you want. And it's a great way to learn Photoshop too.